Hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy's podcast studio. And we are super excited to have Amy Duda back on our podcast. She was one of our first guests way back when in 2020. So 4 years later, we're having her back on to discuss her life coaching business. Amy, welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I sure appreciate it. It's good to be back.
So last time we talked, you were a personal trainer, basically, and now you've progressed into an overall life coach. Tell us about that.
Well, I am still dabbling in personal training. It's just not as heavy anymore. But what I realized when I was doing personal training, that I was focusing just as much, if not more, on the mental side. And I thought, well, I've thought continuously, like throughout the years, I should really look into life coaching and doing this as a profession. And it's really been the last 6 months that I've really taken action to start my business. Although I've been coaching people on their mindsets and mentality and mental for years. The only difference is now I've actually started a business doing it. So love it.
Well, yeah, so much when we talk about our physical health, so much of our physical health is a mental game. So it's important. You talked about, motivating people and things like that and holding accountability. Those are all part of being a personal trainer. So a lot of times really a good personal trainer or coach will also be doing a lot of that stuff anyway, correct?
Absolutely. The mind and the body is connected. Okay. When you have a healthy body, you want a healthy mind. And when you have a healthy mind, you want a healthy body. And it's not really possible to have just one or the other. It's really, they really go together. And so that's why you'll see people go to the gym and then they're really starting to push themselves mentally and break through obstacles. And it's funny because most people know what to do, but few people do what they know. And there's such a reason for that, whether it's a lack of belief in yourself, whether it's, you're afraid of failure. There could be many aspects to that. And when you start making healthier choices for your life, one of the things to be considered is, what are the obstacles that are stopping you? What are your fears? Because we all have something deep down. It's always a continuous work that we all, need to work on, or an obstacle we need to overcome, or a barrier we need to break. And that's why I say, most people know what to do, but few people do what they know. There's a lot of people that struggle with procrastination or just the lack of belief in themselves. A lot of it's accountability. Some people just need just a cheerleader in their corner, say, yeah, I think you can do this. I think you're capable of this. Or they just need somebody to go nah, you're just kind of feeding your head with a bunch of nonsense. This is really what it is. Let's focus on the now and the present and move forward.
Janet, what questions do you have for Amy?
So I feel like in the last few years, there's so much out there right now that so many religions on food. And that's kind of what I call it. My son Jordan calls it that way too, because that plays a role in our health too. And so it seems like there's a lot of obstacles there, as well as what we're fed and what we know and what we don't know. So could you speak to that a little bit with your training and coaching?
When it comes to nutrition and making healthy decisions, right? When we overeat or don't make decisions that are very good for our bodies, it's actually what I call a lack of connection. Okay, so if you're overeating, you're craving some sort of connection in like another area. Okay. It could be connections with friends. Maybe, you're missing your kids, or there's something lacking, or something that is blocking you mentally from being able to make those decisions. And that's why, we a lot of people in my field call it what's called deep work. Are you doing the actual deep work? Because willpower, discipline only goes for so long. Okay, you can say, I'm determined to do this. I have willpower to do this. But if you're not getting down to the deep issues of why you're making the decisions that you're making that aren't good for your health or feed your body in a right way, then you're going to go back to it. Have you ever witnessed somebody, like, let's say they stop smoking cigarettes for a really long time? Okay. And then all of a sudden they just pick it back up. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, what are you doing? You were doing so well, like, what happened? And it's because it wasn't, the issues deep down weren't dealt with. And you have to replace that habit with something good. That's why I tell a lot of my clients, like, have a list of stuff that makes you feel good when they're trying to, kick a bad habit. If it's overeating, if it's smoking, if it's drinking or anything, it's important to have a feel-good list. And this is an idea that I got from my coach, a feel-good list of just the things and activities, or, the mindset of things that make you feel good. So you can automatically turn to that list. I'm someone that tends to struggle with sweets at night. So what am I going to replace that with? Maybe when I am feeling that way, maybe it's just because I need some attention from my spouse. Maybe it's just because I need to go for a walk and get away from the chaos. I have 3 kids. There's always chaos going on in the house, right? Maybe I'm reaching for the sugar and the sweets because of something outside that I'm dealing with. And I notice when we try to control everything that we can't control, we can only control right here, right? But we try to control all of these things on the outside. That's when those temptations of the decisions of not making very good decisions for ourselves, whether, it's food, smoking, or any of that on that aspect. But all we know is we can control what's going on right here. And we always have the power to go to that feel good list. One of the things that I love the Grease soundtrack, the movie Grease. I know anytime that I turn on that soundtrack, it's going to make me feel better, or it's going to be like a distraction. So, I encourage anybody that is struggling with a habit, maybe it is overeating, maybe it's undereating, maybe it's, whatever, to make a list that you can turn to so you can replace it with something good, something fulfilling. Sorry, I just went off on, a thing. No, I can go on forever and ever.
Yeah, that was good. So you've had a health journey of your own. Mm-hmm. I know when we had you on 4 years ago, we showed some before and after pictures. You'd lost, is it 90 pounds? Is that right? Am I exaggerating?
234 pounds.
So you went from 234 to like 135 or something, correct?
Yeah, 140. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us what motivated you to do that.
It was honestly wanting to be healthier for my kids. I didn't like the way that I looked, let's be honest, but I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt. My oldest daughter thought I was still pregnant, and it had been like almost like a year or so since I had a baby. So that was pretty insulting. Kids are so brutally honest, but right. If you really listen to kids, you can have some of the best conversations and get the best advice from them. So it was her thinking I was pregnant, and, just being a former athlete, I had always set higher standards for myself. And so I was just sick of the lower standard that I was setting for myself. And I wanted more for my kids and those around me. And that's why I love to help people live healthier lifestyles, because I never want anybody to feel like I did, even though people kind of sometimes have to like drop, to rock bottom. But I love helping people get to the point where they're feeling confident in making good decisions again. And so having that experience, being overweight, is why I'm a great personal trainer. It's why I'm a good life coach, because I come from real life experience.
I like having that story too. I have a similar journey. Didn't lose as much weight as you did, but I felt I was the same. It was like I wanted to be healthy for my kids, and I didn't want to die. I wanted to be able to be active with them and not die a young death. That's for sure, or be miserable. So that's kind of what motivated me, and I do think that it helps having that story, being obese before. It can help us relate to people that are in the same situation and give them some motivation that it can be done.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
So you also have another health journey that you went public with just recently, and you've celebrated 9 months being sober from alcohol. Do you mind that story?
Yeah. I didn't think that I had a problem, because I was the mom that drank at night, my wine at night, everything was functioning around me, right? The kids were ready for school. The house was clean, everything looked like it was put together on the outside. And what I started doing, it started off with like a couple of glasses of wine at night. And I'm like, oh, okay, no big deal. A lot of people do it. And then it started to turn into 3, 4. And then pretty soon I'm drinking a bottle of wine a night. And then it turns into half of a bottle of a big bottle, then a big bottle, And I was really lying to myself for so long, because I'm like, well, I'm staying home. I'm not hurting anybody. It's okay if I, make this decision. The kids are fed, the kids are going to school, they're getting good grades, giving me all of these excuses. And what happened was wine began to not be enough. So then I started going after like the tequila, the stuff that was really going to work really fast. And I lost control one day, and I woke up at my mom's house, not remembering how I got there, not remembering that my fiance had dropped me off. And I remember waking up and just waking up in my mom's house, not remembering how I got there, and just having this shame of just how I was conducting myself. And I had always prided myself, and I still do, on teaching my kids how to work through problems and how to, handle life challenges. And at that point, I had just lost all control. So I decided to drive myself to an AA meeting, probably still, I would say, a little bit buzzed from the night before still. And I remember pulling up super nervous to an AA meeting. And I went through the doors, and there's just like all of these people, right? And they all I swear it was just like, just looking at me. And I was just like, this panic feeling came inside, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I turned to leave, and this guy behind me goes, hey, are you new? And extended out his hand to me and said, hey, can I get you some coffee? You can sit next to me. And because I often think of that guy, because he is literally the only reason why I sit here sober And this is why I will talk a lot about never underestimate the power of kindness and what that can do for someone. Because I know that if that guy wasn't right there, extended his hand to me, offered to get me coffee, I mean, I had a straight shot for the door. I could have just easily left and just continued on with my life. And eventually, at that time, I was in jeopardy of losing my relationship. And, and it was because of that guy. And I haven't seen him since, although I've looked for him at meetings and stuff. He's like, a ghost in the night that came, just like went. But I often think about him and give gratitude that he happened to be there that day and show me so much kindness. Because when somebody, we all have our lives going on, right? We all are busy. We got things to do. We got kids to take care of, all of that. And when somebody turns to us, we can look at it as something as, I just don't have time for this. Or you can look at it as that I might be this person's last hope. I might be the last person that this person is turning to before, they hurt themselves or before they totally go off the edge with drinking or drugs, or even we can relate that to fitness and nutrition, so never underestimate the power of being kind and being able to help someone. And it doesn't mean you have to sit there for hours at a time. Somebody just wants to know a lot of the time that you care, and they just want to hear like, you can do it.
We've got a viewer that says, Paul Nelson, AA saved my life 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. And thank you for watching. He also said, this is a good comment. He also said, we only keep what we have by giving it away. And, basically we can give away kindness, and don't underestimate the power of a one-on-one interaction. One person can really make a difference in somebody's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I try to keep that perspective, and it just feels good to help somebody else. Have you ever felt like you're really inside yourself, that you got so many problems and, they almost feel like, I don't know if I can get through this. And you're kind of just inside yourself, you're kind of in your head. Well, a really good way to get into your heart is to actually go, and my mom used to say this all the time, if you're having a hard time, go lose yourself in the service of someone else. And, it used to annoy me so much when I was a teenager that she would say that. I'd be like, okay, whatever, Mom. But sure enough, every time that I go to help somebody else that's either less fortunate than me or having a hard time, or just simply like helping, an elderly lady with her groceries to her car, that energy, that frequency is what we like to call it, of doing good. It makes you feel good. It makes you want to do it again. And you just never know when you are the person that just made that person's day or changed that person's life. And that day when I went to AA, that guy that extended his hand to me changed my life forever. And he doesn't even know it. I never got to, and I pray that someday that I will be able to have the chance to thank him.
So you haven't seen him since?
No. And I went back to that same, because the AA center was next to my mom's, and I live about a half an hour away. So I go somewhere that's a little closer now. And I went back a few times, and I haven't been able to, see him. But someday I know it will happen.
Yeah, right. So Janet, do you have any comments or questions about that?
Well, that's a beautiful story. And I think that's very true, that sometimes people touch us in ways that we don't realize. And so I think being aware that we aren't the only humans in this world helps us. That's true about even when we're born. We have to attach to our mother before we thrive, because without it we fail to thrive. So we're really touching on that inner thing that we have, that we need to be a part of the world around us and the humans that are in it. So that's a very valid point. And the other thing that was very interesting that you touched on too is that most people know what they need to do. And I think that's true. So being a coach, you're able to help people pull that out and get past. And I think the failures that Shawn and I see a lot of times in people's lives isn't that they don't know. It's just that they have barriers to getting it done.
That saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Really, a lot of the time people will have an obstacle and they'll just stop instead of just trying to, how can I get around this, or how can I get through this? They just kind of take that as, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do it. Or it's, you guys have been there. You guys work out a lot and all that. It's very unmotivating when you come up to an obstacle and you've been dealing with it for a while, and it can get tiring. And, really doing the deep work. The deep work is so important because you will always go back to habits that, you are trying to break if that deep work isn't done. Why do you procrastinate so much? What is it? Why won't you, go and do X, Y, Z? What is it? What is it that's holding you back? And a lot of the time is, what I used to do, call myself out here. I used to use housework as like an scapegoat to go and like do what I needed to do to like work on, business stuff and all of that. And I'm always very honest with, the people that I converse with and the people that follow me is, I'm human just like everybody else. I have faults. I have things that I'm working through on a daily. And, I used to give like, well, the housework has to be done, the house needs to be all put together and all this. Well, that was actually me just avoiding hard work, to be really honest.
There's lots of ways we can justify our procrastination. I do it all the time. It's easy to do. It really is. And you think, well, I'm going to do something that I'm productive at, and it's going to be productive, and I can justify not doing X, Y, Z that I should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my clients a great way to stay focused is you have to get up every morning. And what do you do to what I call fill up your gas tank? Okay, what do you do to take care of yourself? If you believe in God, is a part of your morning praying and reading the Bible. If you believe in, fitness, are you going to the gym? Are you doing all of that? What are you doing every morning that you can get up and fill that gas tank? Okay. And I have an hour and a half every morning to myself where I have a routine that I stick to, a gratitude list. I say my prayers, and then I head off to the gym and take care of myself. And I don't put anything in that schedule unless it's family related. So I often ask my clients, what are you doing to fill up your gas tank every morning to take care of yourself? Because we go throughout the day and we have certain things that take up certain amount of energy, and some take more energy than others. But the idea is by the end of the day, you've had enough gas in your tank to last the day. And so, what are you doing to get up and put yourself first? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. When you start feeling like you're, every which way, and stuff, and you didn't focus on here first, then you start losing yourself. And you can't give the very best of yourself until you can't give the very best to others until you give the very best to yourself first.
That is so true, and something that people forget about often. They neglect themselves before they take care of others and neglect themselves. And I think a lot of times they say, well, it's selfish to put ourselves first. But just like you just said, if you don't put yourself first in most things, I get it. There's times to be selfless. I get that.
Absolutely.
But if you don't put yourself first, you can't help anybody if you don't help yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my kids know that at certain time, in the mornings and stuff, if they, like have a dental appointment or whatever, or they're trying to make, some sort of appointment, that in the mornings, that's my time, and they don't make, and you have to put those boundaries up, even with family.
Yeah, I should say, especially with family, right?
Mm-hmm. I would say that too, because absolutely, it's more so with family, because family's really comfortable with taking up time, but if you do a good job and communicate to your family and loved ones that this is what I need to do to be the very best I can be for you guys, myself first, and then you guys, then it goes over a lot easier. If you're just waking up, you want some time by yourself, you just go in, shut the door, drinking your coffee, and your family really doesn't know what's going on, what's the new routine and all of that. And then we're expecting them to just understand, right? I'd be like, right. Well, but we really didn't communicate to them the higher standard that we're trying to set for ourselves. Right. So really being open and honest about the changes you're making, whether it's, physical, mental, nutrition, whatever.
Yeah, all great points. So, Amy, as we wind this podcast up, I'm going to stream your Instagram, and you said this is the best way for people to get a hold of you.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us how they get a hold of you. What's the starting point of your life coaching business?
Just go ahead and DM me, or they can email me at synergysoulcoaching@gmail.com. And what we do is we just set up a consultation. And we just go over, how I might be able to help you, how I can help, get you into action, get you into making better life choices for yourself, get you in a confidence place. A lot of people aren't confident in making that they can make good decisions for themselves. So we just kind of, we go over that and just talk about the different, things that I can do, to introduce them to who they're truly capable of. And that's my passion right there.
I love it. I'm glad you shared your passion, and I love what you're doing. I love your stories, Amy. You are very inspirational. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your stories with others so you can help them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you guys having me on the podcast again. I hope that I can come on again in the future. And congratulations on such a successful podcast.
Thank you so much. And it's guests like yourself that help this success. So thank you so much. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Wednesday, our midweek podcast, 8:30 a.m. We just changed it. We had a last-minute cancellation, so a new guest, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You don't want to miss out. We're going to have Christian back on. He was on last week. Don't want to miss out. Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you.